Welcome to the Black Girl Iowa podcast, where we celebrate stories, experiences, and accomplishments of Black men and women making an impact in the greater Des Moines area and beyond. I'm your host, Emily, and today I'm joined with an incredible guest, and I'd like to take a moment to tell you all about her. Originally from Tampa, Florida, her journey has taken her from Rolling Book High School in Illinois to Drake University, where she earned her Bachelor of Science degree in psychology and later her Master of Science degree in counseling clinical mental health. She is a licensed mental health counselor specializing in trauma, inner child work, and shame with a passion for serving BIPOC and LGBTQ communities. She is the owner and founder of Question Kayla, LLC, where she provides public speaking, educational training, and workshops to increase mental health accessibility. She also serves as the director of the Broadlawn Drake University Student Counseling Center and previously led as president of the Iowa Mental Health Counselors Association from 2021 to 2023. In 2024, she helped organize the first ever Black Mental Health Conference with the Des Moines alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. She believes one of the best things about living in Iowa is the strong sense of community and the way youth are prioritized. Today, we'll dive into her work, her journey, and impact she's making in the mental health space. Ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary friends, I'd like to introduce Kayla Bell-Consolver to the show. Kayla, thank you so much for being here today.
I love the way you introduced me. I was like, wow, that was me.
Yes, that's all you. That's why I have the Google form. Like I remember when I was developing the podcast, my friend was like, "Girl, you gonna have everybody do a Google form?" Yes, I'm gonna have everybody do a Google form because I need to know, and I want to make sure that all your accomplishments, all the great things you have done, are being highlighted on the show. So again, thank you so much for being here. You know, we were talking a little bit prior to starting the session here. I originally saw you first at Stories to Tell My Daughter. And I absolutely loved the conversation that you had about that realization that not only am I gay, but am I going to be accepted? I feel like every Black girl goes through that at some point. And it may not be that I'm gay. It may be that I'm just different, that I think differently. I look differently. I talk differently, but acceptance is just kind of rooted a little bit into all of our adolescence. So before we kind of like dig a little deep more into all of that, I want to go back to that girl, that 10-year-old girl, Kayla, originally from Tampa, Florida. So how did that 10-year-old questioning, looking for acceptance, Kayla, make her way to Illinois and then come to Drake University for college? Can you kind of talk about your journey a little bit to start?
Yeah, there's a part of me, that little girl inside, always gets excited when people want to know about her, because I feel like it's most people that met me after that have no idea that, that she even existed. Right. And so in summary, that when I was 10, I was really rejecting of moving. I loved my community. It's very one of those, organic Black communities, like everyone knew each other. And I grew up around my cousins, my grandparents, my family. So there was a lot of frustration when I learned that we would have to relocate, because when I moved up to the suburbs of Chicago, I had no idea how different I was, even around Black people. All I knew was Tampa. I talked differently. I dressed differently. I didn't realize I had a little accent. In Florida, everyone wears like a lot of jewelry and rings and sneakers. So, and I had this big Scooby-Doo chain that was just so normal. Everybody I grew up around had that, in the cartoon NASCAR jackets. Like that was our style.
Okay.
So I moved
I'm gonna need photographic evidence of all of this.
I need to find some. Listen, yes.
Because I feel like a Scooby-Doo chain. Why aren't you wearing that now?
Oh my gosh, that's a story. So there were parts of my life when I realized, okay, something was changing. So if I jump up to running track, the first or second day I was at Drake, hopped this fence and I broke it. And I was so disappointed. I was like, oh, that must mean, hindsight.
That's heartbreaking.
It
Time to move on.
Yeah, time to move on. Exactly. But so I realized I was not accepted. So I found this feeling inside of like, ooh, I'm different. I think it really hit me, like sexuality wise. I knew I was different in like middle school when I came out to myself, but I didn't realize I was fully different, right? Until I went to Chicago and they would say things like, go back to Florida. Like I immediately had to take the standardized tests. And I had no idea the capital of Illinois. I thought it was Chicago. I was like, I know nothing about this place that I'm in. And I remember just trying to block it all out, and I lost myself, right? So I don't think I tried to be accepted. If anything, I became less accepting of myself. So I loved basketball. I didn't fit in here, so I said, okay, I'm just going to stop that. So how I evolved is I actually started to release the things that really meant the most to me, and just was floating a little bit. And then I found very slowly ways to integrate that. So I played the clarinet, so I got involved in band there. I gave up basketball because of the way I felt like my experience was so different. And mind you, like before we moved to Chicago, I was getting recruited to play at one of the best high schools. And I was like, oh, this is going to be
Okay.
amazing. So then I moved, and now I'm like at the bottom of the pole. Everybody
Mhm.
knows everybody. So then that's when I went and shifted to do track. Because I love to jump. That was my nickname in Florida, was Hops. So I was like, well, this is probably something I'm good at. And then I became really good at triple and long jump in high school. And then that's why with Drake, my coach was really connected with Drake Relays because he ran them in
Mhm.
college. So he helped me get connected with the coach. And so I
Mhm.
found myself coming to Iowa. And just that's a story. It just a story that just lived itself. I think I was
Yeah.
meant to be here.
I tell people all the time, I've been lucky that I've been able to live quite a few different places outside of Iowa. I was gone for about 9 years. I lived up in Wisconsin for a little bit. I lived in Wyoming. I lived in Arizona for 5 years. And I tell people all the time, like, you'd be surprised all of the different things that you can do in Iowa. But
Mhm.
specific to Des Moines, there's so much happening. But at the same time, if you don't want to go outside, you don't have to. There's never really like that obligation. And then also just like with traffic and how things move here, it is slower paced, but there's always something to do. And so I always find it interesting that anytime I talk to, you coined it, so I'm gonna say it, anytime I talk to transplants, it's always
I
like,
tell
yeah,
that to somebody else
I'm
too.
every time I talk to transplants, this is always what happens. Yep, I came to Iowa. I said I'm gonna go to school, get my degree, do what I gotta do, and I'm leaving.
Uh,
So you're still here.
yeah, yeah.
What was one of the reasons why you said, you know what, I'm actually gonna stay after I finish at Drake?
I never came here with the plan to leave. So maybe I'm a little different. I was just,
Okay.
focused on what is it I want to get done. But in 2014, so this would have been my going into my junior year of college, I got
Mm,
connected with this organization called Children for Family Urban Movement. Right. And
mm,
so I would work there, and that's right next to like Moulton Elementary. And they
mhm,
had a breakfast club, and they had the after school program, and they had the summer program. So that was like my first job in Des Moines.
mhm,
I just got so connected to the community in a way that I
mhm.
can't even describe it. I loved those kids.
Yeah.
I got to I felt like become immersed in a whole different side of Des Moines. I feel like that's what happens when people come to Drake. Sometimes they stay in that Drake bubble. I went
Yeah.
outside of that Drake bubble.
Yeah.
And I also had a church that I was going to at the time. So I felt like I got a taste of Des Moines, and I love the community. Most of those
Mhm,
kids were black and brown, lived in an area that clearly didn't have a lot of resources. And I was studying psychology. And so I started to hear their stories. I got to see the stories of their siblings. Because
mhm,
as long as I was there, I got to see some people grow up a little bit.
mhm.
And the relationship I had, I can't even describe. I was like, wow, this feels really good. And I got to learn, the family because they have the supper club. So I'd be seeing
Right.
people come in, and we're just greeting them and connecting.
Mhm,
And so that always had a really strong place in my heart. And my wife is also, from Des Moines. So it was never like a leave. And then when I got connected more with Delta, it was just like,
yeah.
this feels like home. And I
Right.
liked it because it reminded me of Tampa, where Tampa, that same piece. I think I was missing a culture that was just a
Mhm,
little bit more close knit because, Chicago's
mhm.
very fast paced and it's big and I love it, but it's so
Correct.
widespread. Des Moines is like a small town with a city
Mhm.
vibe. And
Right.
I like that, right? So
Right.
that's what really kept me because the more I got involved in the community, the more it felt like I was here. Like I was telling you before, some people really think I've been here all my life. And even though it's funny, I was actually at church one time and someone had told me, I remember seeing you grow up as a kid. I was like, no, you don't. But I bet it feels like it. I bet it feels like
People.
it. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
I love people
I
too. He
love it.
probably really believed that, and that was okay.
Yeah.
That gives you an
Right.
idea like how I've been here.
That's really important because I've spoken with a lot of people that came here, whether it be for school or a job or to be with a spouse or a family member, and everyone has said the same thing. Once you get connected, with the Black community, specifically in Des Moines or in Ames, or if you were to go to Cedar Rapids or Iowa City, once you get connected, it's almost like you're in it. And you start going to these different events and these different programs, and you start to really learn and understand not only the community, but what that culture is like here. And I think that the Iowa culture is one thing. Des Moines culture is another thing, right? But the Black culture in Des Moines is so unique because I don't really think a lot of people really understand how a lot of families got here. And a lot of families got here because, believe it or not, we are not too far removed from the Jim Crow South. People were fleeing. People were coming up here for jobs, for opportunities, because they saw other Black people doing those things here. I really love how that community aspect, it is still happening, it's still reaching out. And that's why I always tell my friends that aren't from here, listen, you can absolutely claim where you are from, but you are an Iowan, you are a Des Moinesian now.
Yeah.
And it's not for anything other than you're a part of this now. So and I know you had said sometimes I don't like to claim it. Go ahead and claim it. You're one of us.
Yeah.
Just let it
I think
let
I
it
have to. I think I have to because the moment I go anywhere, I know everybody. It's
Yeah.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
insane. And then I see
Yep.
kids that have graduated high school I met at elementary school. So I think I have to
Yeah.
kind of like claim that
Yep, yep.
this
You
is me.
you have to claim it now. Like I've got a friend, one of my really, really good friends, she does my hair. Her name is Ashley Bell, and she's from Chicago. And every so often she'll just be like, man, I mean, in Chicago, that's why Des Moines is so different. I'm like, girl, you've been here for like 12 years.
Right.
We're not doing this.
You're right.
No.
I don't think I'm ever
Nope,
gonna
you're
let go of
from
my
here.
area code. I think I'm never gonna
Yeah.
change my phone number, but you're right, I ain't claiming that in other
Yep.
ways.
Every time I'm like, girl, be quiet. You are from here. You're here. It's
Right.
definitely wonderful. So that's awesome. I'm a Drake alum as well. I went there for grad school. So
Hey.
really happy to have that connection with you as well. So but I want to get back to you speaking at Stories to Tell My Daughter. And one of the things that I talked about in one of my first episodes, actually I think it was my very first episode, was the nuances and significance of Black girlhood. And I feel like, again, when you were talking about your experiences growing up, you said in your story, which I will be sure to link that conversation. It's on Iowa Public Radio. It's so good, so good. But you shared about how you said you were tall, dark skinned, had acne. The kids had a nickname for you, and you were essentially bullied. And it was almost like you were being bullied for your outward appearances, but then you are being bullied for who you are on the inside and for a piece that maybe you didn't understand, you didn't share. And I felt connected to you in that moment because I remember that. I remember being bullied as a kid. And for me, I went from living on the south side of Des Moines, which at the time was very white, to my parents building a house in Woodland Heights where they still live. And so I went from going to South Union Elementary School to Callahan Middle School. Incredibly diverse population, students from all over, and I got teased a lot. And if it weren't for my friend group, I don't know what would have happened. So when I think about that, and I think about the fact that you are a mental health counselor now, did some of that kind of drive your passion to want to study psychology?
Yeah. Thank you for naming that. I'm glad that my story touched you as well. Right. That was one of the reasons I told Sarisa Zilk. I was like, yeah, I need to share this particular story.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting. I believe in a lot of like sense of purpose and alignment because when I look back on my journey, I don't ever recall saying, I want to make sure no one goes through what I went through. Right. Like
Mm,
even becoming a counselor, I don't think I had a name for that until I was on my way out of undergrad. But of course, when I look back, that piece of like shame and ache and sense of like loneliness that was in me, like, of course, is like created a path toward me wanting to ensure no one else has to feel that way. Because it's a
mm,
very particular feeling. And
mm,
so, and a lot of times people who feel it don't know what's happening. And we go inward and we say, it must be something that's wrong with me as to like why I'm experiencing this. And that is
right.
like the crux of, I think, why I do everything that I do now is to really connect with people who have those little parts inside of them that really still feel stuck in that experience and have
Mhm.
now adapted their whole life toward that experience in them. But then we never go back to that part
Right.
inside that got hurt. So I say, yeah, it definitely connects. But when I was growing up, I was so focused in on helping other people that I never
Mhm.
really took time to look and see what needs to be helped inside for me.
I feel like when you say, I was so focused on everybody else, because we want everybody else to like us. We want to make our parents proud. We want our friends to like us. We want our teachers to think we're good kids. And I for me, I didn't really feel like there were a lot of opportunities for me to truly walk in and step in and be myself, because I always felt incredibly different in the sense of, yes, I still loved all of the things that my friends loved. I was in middle school in the late 90s. So, oh god. Yep, that was the late 90s. Okay. Just aged myself a
That's
little.
okay. I knew I was going to
I
say what I
am
said when I was in
I am
college.
30 and I've been 39 years old, and yep, it was the late 90s. But anyway, but yeah, like, like I loved all of the same music and the styles and things like that, but I still felt awkward in my body. My teeth were messed up. I sucked my finger when I was little, and so my teeth looked like stair steps. And then I got braces. Then I had these huge glasses, and I didn't feel right in my body. I felt like I was too dark. My hair was too kinky. Like I felt all of these things, and then you add on top of it. Yes, I loved all of the same music and hip hop and R&B that my friends did, but I also loved the Backstreet Boys. I also loved all of this other stuff in culture. And I was super into my feelings, and I was super emotional. And I never really knew how to just be. And I think now that I'm older, and granted, I don't have children, but now that hindsight being 2020, and I'm looking back, I feel like your talk helped me really realize and recognize, and this is no fault to anyone. I never had an opportunity to just let myself feel how I felt about things. I felt like every reaction wasn't necessarily my own, it was a reaction for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's one of the reasons why, for me, I think Black girlhood is always
Yeah.
just going to be so unique and so different. And the other piece that I wanted to talk about um from your talk was when you decided to come out, you wrote a letter to your grandmother,
Mhm. Yeah.
and she responded to you and said, and I went back and I wrote it down. She said, you are, and actually it gave me tears then, and then I'm writing it down. I'm like,
Oh,
it's like, that's beautiful.
yeah.
Your grandmother said, you are going to have a great life. There's nothing wrong with you, and I love you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think if you would have heard that at 10, it would have had a greater impact than hearing it at the age that you did?
Oh, 100%. Um, when you grow up feeling different like that, like never seeing, and that's a generalized, I think, experience a lot of people can feel. Like you grow up never seeing you learn that you're so different to the point that it's wrong. Right? And you
Mm,
carry that as long as you can. You do the work to make sure, right? You may have great friend groups, but that burden is still there because the people who love on you the most, who have raised you, aren't able to offer you that. So when my Nana said that, it touched directly back to that little 10-year-old in me. Because my
mhm,
adult self knew that, right? I had
mhm,
deconstructed a lot of harmful beliefs. But I wonder, and I often think about that even to this day, is like if I even knew like Black gay people existed in the world and could be adults and grow up and have
mhm.
families, how
Yeah.
that would have transformed my entire worldview. Like seeing
Mhm,
myself as an adult, seeing myself get old, because that's still something I think I have to work through and process. I don't see people like me still old, married,
yeah.
having kids. Like that's
Right.
not still a common thing that's talked about or shown because a lot of them really had to shield that, part of them throughout
Mhm.
most of their life.
Right.
But if I would have heard that earlier, honestly, I if I like think back to where I was at when I was that age, I don't know if I would have been able to receive it, right? Because
Mm,
I think I had deeply internalized, right? All the things you think
mhm,
about church, you think about down south culture. I think
yeah,
I would have to hear that more often than not to truly believe that and hear it
mhm,
from others. Because when you're a
yes,
kid, you need protection, right? Not just affirmation. I need to know I'm safe.
mhm,
And I think hearing that would have made me feel good around my Nana, right? But not necessarily
mhm,
safe in the world because all the other bullying that was already happening. So
Right.
if anything, I think it came at the right time, right? Where I have know that I can protect myself. So the only thing that
Hmm.
was left was needing that sense
Hmm.
of like, you're okay as you are.
I'm a firm believer in the messages always come when you're ready to receive
Absolutely.
them.
Yeah. Yep.
And hearing that made me think about messages that I've received and things that, as much as I want to say, if I would have known the things I know now when I was 18 or 19, I joke with my friends all the time. Yep, I wouldn't have got married. Easy. All of these other things because I'm since divorced. But I also feel that with everything that I've kind of been through. So with the bullying, with the drastic change in demographic in schools, to my college, to getting married, to moving, to going through a divorce, I have to remember that all of those experiences kind of lead up to the person that I'm looking at right now. The other thing that I do want to touch on is, and we're going to talk about your TikTok because we've already had words about it.
Yeah.
We've had words about your TikTok. I have some things to say. But for you to study psychology, then go and get your counseling degree in clinical mental health and serving patients that are dealing with trauma, inner child work, shame, and then really serving BIPOC and LGBTQ communities. Are there parts of your story that lead your work? And what are some of the pieces of your story that you are finding very beneficial as you're serving these communities?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So to your first point around like pieces that lead the work, I tell everyone therapy is part technique, but a good chunk of it's hard work. So when I'm with somebody, that's why I believe like the therapy, that space is so sacred to me, is I'm doing heart to heart work. And there's a deep felt sense of understanding. I always make sure, ethically, I'm not making the session my own. I
Mm,
have learned a way of expressing a deep sense of empathy and understanding without ever having to share my story. There's a way that I've learned to say, I get it without saying I've been there. And it becomes such a huge place of like vulnerability and seeing, and I can hold things in there and invite
mhm,
those things in because I'm not afraid of them. Right. So I had to do my own work because I think that's where things can be challenging is like, oof, I haven't done my own work. Like when I worked with someone
mhm.
who, back when I was first starting, who really struggled with sexuality and religion, I was fighting myself. Literally,
Yeah.
I'm like, read this book and you'll feel better, right? And
Yeah.
that's how therapy works.
Y'all know I love a good book with a purpose. And Glow Rose Books is all about creating stories and journals that help kids and teens name their feelings, find their voice, and feel seen. From Good Night My Blessing to Gary and Negative Dino, and journals like Look, I'm Mad and You Don't Need the Likes. Every page is designed to spark conversation, reflection, and growth. These books are perfect for parents, educators, and anyone who wants to help young people express themselves in healthy ways. You can grab your copies right now at glowrosebooks.com. And if you missed it, go back to season 1, episode 5 of the Black Girl Iowa podcast to hear my in-depth conversation with the author herself, Glow Rose. Trust me, you're going to want to listen.
Like, you have to go on your own journey. And I think that leads us because I know what it's like to be in that depth of pain and I know what it's like to move through it. So there's a deep sense of faith and hope I have in people and knowing that we can move through these things, but we have to be so gentle as we do. And to what was your second question? You said,
Was just really about the pieces of your story and how they comes full circle for you and how and why it's important for you to specifically serve those communities.
yes, absolutely. So I can hear, I feel like I have like a sixth sense of shame. And I don't mean that in an ego way, but more so in a true heart, soul, spirit way. I can hear that streamlined, I'm worthless because of who I am. It just becomes like very clear in everything that I do and when I work. So because I know what that story and I feel that inside me, I can hear that in someone else and I can lean in and just pull that out a little bit more, right? Give it space to be heard, recognized, not only by me, but by the person I'm working with. And I do believe because I've done that work and I've had to sit
Mhm.
with it and I know that experience, I can also understand what it's like to feel that and also know what it's like to try not to feel that. So in the work, I can hear when people are like trying to push away from it or trying to become perfectionists to get away from it or try to come to
Yeah.
me and say, how do I get rid of this? Because I've
Yeah.
lived that. I know exactly
Yeah.
what it's like to try to get rid of a part of you. And I know how profound the healing can be when we actually accept every part of us. Because any person who's ever experienced rejection, isolation, bullying, just have learned to be rejected for who you are, you learn to do that to yourself. And many people come to therapy with those wounds. So when I have people who are BIPOC, especially BIPOC and LGBTQ, I know that
Mhm.
intersectionality, that dance of like,
Mhm.
I'm not fully accepted anywhere, you bring that into therapy.
Mhm.
And you bring in your protectors as well. The parts you have really learned, we can't fully be ourselves. So I'm
Mhm.
always listening for that, and I'm also inviting that in, and if they don't, I'll just ask specific questions,
Mhm.
right? I'm curious if you've
Yeah.
ever felt this in this situation, or what would that look like?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
oftentimes they're like, "Yeah," because I know that often, just like I said, I would have rejected those messages. We tend to reject the healing we need when we don't feel like we deserve it. I have to ask the questions that will give an invitation to speak from those places.
Yeah. Kayla, I'm over here like trying not to get into with you because I remember when I entered therapy years ago. So I've been in therapy on and off for the last 15 years now. And it's so crazy because when I went into therapy, I went thinking that I'm just having trouble at school. I'm going to get it figured out. Bing, bada bing, bada boom, I'm done. Right. Not recognizing that there were pieces of my childhood that I hadn't dealt with because I thought the bullying that I was receiving was normal.
Mhm.
And then when it came to me moving forward, and I chipped away at it a little bit. And then when I was in therapy again, right around the time I decided I need to leave my now ex-husband, it was almost like my therapist knew this. I was holding on to not talking about my childhood and saying that has nothing to do with why I want to get a divorce. This is what it is. And it was almost like it was like this inner battle with myself of say it was like 12-year-old Emily is fighting with 35-year-old
Yeah.
Emily. And it's just like, no, deal with this. It's gonna make sense. No, I don't want to deal with this. I've dealt with you already,
Like, go away.
And exactly. It's like go away. Like I've already like figured it out, right? But you said something so important, and that is just that the feelings around shame when you think you've gotten over something, you really haven't because you haven't like fully opened yourself up to it. And so I really love how you also mentioned that therapy is heart work. It is hard. It is not easy, but you have to fix things in your heart to become whole. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. And I don't think a lot of people really realize and understand that everyone can go through trauma. Everyone's traumas are going to look different. On the outside, I had a two-parent income. It was me and my sister. Parents are great. They're educated. They're awesome. I never asked for, wanted for anything. I mean, my parents still spoil me to this day, and we poor post grad student. So I need all the support I can get, but there are still certain parts of my life that were traumatic and they weren't easy, and recognizing that I feel like is helping me because I'm still in therapy and I'm still doing
Yeah.
the work. But I love the fact that we have someone like you that is out there not only doing the work for people of color but for those LGBTQ plus
Mhm.
people in those communities and helping them work through some of those things, because I feel like a lot of people never really realize and recognize the intersectionality of it all. Nobody is on a straight path. I I think that is incredibly important. And I want to kind of move into my next thing here. I want to talk about your TikTok. So,
Okay.
you
I
guys,
knew it was coming.
it was coming. You guys, Kayla's on TikTok.
Yes.
So, not so long ago, I woke up and first thing I like to do in the morning is I check all my socials, check my emails, all that stuff. And Kayla has on her TikTok, it says part 94. And Kayla's on here just got to work, and she is talking about how sometimes she feels like some of us out here we don't know the sauce. we don't know that we have it. We doubt ourselves. And I'm sitting there sleepy eyed and I'm like, I mean, she kind of right, but you know. And then she says something that really resonated with me to the point where I got mad and I wanted to throw my phone because she was right. And I said, she said, when you look inside yourself, see beyond those parts that you might not like and see the beauty, the essence, and the opportunity. And then she had the audacity, y'all, to say, you don't have to be perfect. You just got to be you. Now, ma'am, it had to have been like 7:30 in the morning.
It was
So loud. And I commented, you
can't wrap
are
it all.
so loud and so right. Have a blessed day. But just know you were rude. It was really rude. It was uncalled for. I didn't like you were right. And I'm gonna take that into my day.
Yeah.
What I really like, and I've scrolled through your TikTok quite a bit. There is, I can't even say that it's positivity. I can't even say that it's realness. It's realness. I honestly think your social media, your TikTok, is just representative of you and who you are. Because I have only met you a few times, but something tells me you are that friend that when you see your friend about to crash out, you're like, hey, wait, shut up. No, not doing it. So, can you talk to me a little bit about why having those moments to your followers on social media are important for you, and maybe how do those help you get through the day?
Yeah, I'm chuckling. I love when I get this feedback. I actually had another one. I'm gonna name that. A lot more people have feedback like that. Was what I said. Just because it's better doesn't mean it's healthy. Yeah, a lot of people felt some type of way
Girl,
about that. But I was like, listen, if someone told me, I gotta tell y'all. Okay.
listen, there are things you could just keep it to yourself. I don't know.
Right,
Listen, I'm
right.
not going
I
to tell
said,
you what to do.
right. So nobody, it's on my heart. It's probably somebody else need to feel this too. No,
Right.
I love, I love TikTok. I
Mm-hmm.
love social media because it creates like this echo chamber that you don't really get to be in a lot of like
Mm-hmm.
a certain kind of energy, right? So when I came to TikTok, I was like, what kind of energy do I want to bring? I knew I was like, I did not go in there saying I want to be an influencer. I want to have a bunch of followers because I was like, that doesn't align with me. Like one of my first videos was, I have no idea what I'm doing. It's not gonna be perfect, but I said I want to have fun, right? And
Yes.
I wanted to share the things that we're talking about here, right? I know mental health is not accessible for a lot of people. It costs a lot of money, especially if you don't
Yeah.
have insurance. And the quality of care, depending on that, has different responses. And I feel like I'm very good at what I do, and I want to give more of that out to people free of charge. That's why I don't do Patreon. That's why I don't do the subscription type things. I was like, I want this just to be free, right? So I just started bringing more of my heart and my energy into it. I connect with every single person, right, that reaches
Mm-hmm.
out. Because I was like, this is not like anytime someone comments or likes something that feels personal to me. The thing that doesn't feel
Mm-hmm.
personal, if people don't like that doesn't matter to me. Like the views, but if someone's taking the time out of their day to like it, follow, or comment, I'm like, this touched your heart. Because I recognize,
Mm-hmm.
how things happen. A lot of people that follow me tend to, like what you said, have the story of this is what I went through. I always felt judged or alone. I speak to them. So you'll even hear some of my videos. Sometimes I'll say y'all, but a lot of times I say you because I want the person who's watching it to feel like I'm talking directly to you. So it feels personal. That's why it feels like, hey, why are you calling me out?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
It's
sometimes
like,
it will
hey,
feel.
man, like,
It feels like,
I
yeah,
just,
whoever needs to hear this.
damn.
Because
All
whoever
you was
doesn't
supposed
get
to
it
do
here.
was go to work today. Now you over here calling me out.
Right. Yeah, that's like those who it don't apply to, they'll keep it moving. But those who
Yeah.
do, and I think over time, I was surprised how many people resonate. And I didn't know how many people had, different experiences in therapy, even gone and gotten support and been told they're wrong. Like the whole parts thing went wild, on TikTok where people were like, whoa, you mean that I'm not broken? Like there's not something fundamentally wrong that I need to just cope through and change my belief system? I was like,
Right. Right.
no. So I started leaning more into that. I really try not to treat it like a job because I want it to be such an experience. So right now I'm like actually on a little break because
Mm-hmm.
I was so overwhelmed. So I'm only replying to comments, right? Just given
Mm-hmm.
everything happening, in our state right now.
Right. Right.
But that is what keeps me connected. And I can't tell you how many DMs I've gotten from people that have either one changed their therapy approach because they
Mm-hmm.
said this has been way more helpful. I'm going to tell my therapist I want to do this. and they've
Yeah.
had profound impacts. And then other people who have said, thank you just so much for being the one thing I could look forward to. And I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, I just never knew the impact. And I get
Yeah.
messages like that all the time. People who have felt ashamed, people who have felt unlovable, people who just
Mhm.
felt like they just didn't matter, that felt
Mhm.
like they had a place when they watched my
Mhm.
videos. And that is exactly why I do what I do. So I'm always speaking to the person who feels like there's a piece of them that doesn't feel fully worthwhile, feels broken, or feels like there's something wrong with them. And
Mhm.
that is how I've made that page because I can speak from that place. And on some of my stuff is really
Yeah.
personal as well, right? So I'll share my
Yeah.
story. I had to grow in that space because I didn't realize people wanted to know Kayla. And so the more I invited myself in, it does truly feel like that is who I am. So that's why when I meet people, it's sometimes a little surprising where people feel like they
Mhm.
know me already. Like someone says, "Oh, hey
Yeah.
Kayla, how you doing?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Wait, oh, I follow you. Oh, cool, cool, cool."
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people they do really know. They just don't know the depths of me. But stories to tell my dollars, that was probably the closest I allowed a group of people who I don't have, like,
Yeah.
personal relationships with to really know me, and I've
Mhm.
started to add a little bit of that on TikTok and things like that. But that's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
why I post the way I do. That's very much my energy, and I always get surprised,
Mhm.
like, "How do people know I have good energy?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, because I am very silly. I love a good
Yeah.
voiceover." I was like, "Okay, we're gonna have fun with that."
Listen, and and again, I feel like, and again, I I I said it earlier. Messages come when you're ready to receive them. Yeah. And I've been pretty open with my experience this past year of launching this podcast, being really excited about, and it's so crazy how one part of your life everything is going good and another part it's not. And I went through a domestic situation last year and it was really bad, and it was right before I launched this podcast, and I was thinking maybe now is not the time, maybe I'll reschedule and do it later, but I ended up just pushing through. And I feel like along the way, especially after everything happened, it really felt like things were happening in my life at the perfect time. So it was actually Latoya Lewis who was on the show as well in the first season, and she was like, "Hey, I'm speaking at this thing. I really think that you would love it." And at that time, I was very much a recluse in my apartment. Was I went out to things that I should have went out to, like last summer, had my 20th high school reunion, went to that. But other than that, really wasn't trying to be outside all that much. Plus, I was finishing grad school. And so for me to go to that event and hear all of those stories, I resonated with all of them. And I feel like when your message came across, and I can think back to seeing that video, and I can speak to it now. I was in a deep depression and it was very much so second guessing myself because my life had changed so much in a year that it was really hard to process. And as much as I would love to say that I got up and put my pants on one leg at a time and went out there and did everything, that didn't happen that way. But that message sat with me. And every day it was like, okay, I do have the sauce. I'm going to be all right. And then it was like other things kind of happening and going a certain way in my life. And again, typically for me, when I hear something, it sticks with me.
Mm.
And I ended up saving that video and getting ready for this episode. I went back and I watched it and I still got mad, but it 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 hit a little bit differently because then it was like a reminder. It was like, hey, you, Emily, you have the sauce. You could do these things. Now it's you're goddamn right. I have the sauce and I'm going to continue to do all the things that I want to do. So I would definitely say that don't change. I mean, of course we all change, we all grow and things like that. But when it comes to that piece, don't change that. Continue to call us out
Yes, absolutely.
to, to have those moments, man, because they have such a lasting impact, and I'm really happy that we were able to have this conversation. And I definitely want to have you back on the show at some point because we got to talk about the work that you're doing at Drake, and then how you're getting other mental health counselors all together. I know you also do. You were on a panel for My City, My Health. So I have all of these other things that I definitely want to talk with you about. But before I let you go, though, Kayla, I do have just one more question for you. The work that you are doing, it is so incredibly important. And when you finished with your master's and you started, pretty sure you were already kind of working in this healthcare realm and doing all of these things. Is what you are doing now, is that what you ultimately wanted to do? Or is this just the start of Kayla's journey in mental health? Kind of tell us a little bit about where you wanted to be, where you thought you'd be, and where you want to be moving forward.
Absolutely. First, I want to say, I was just soaking in all the words that you shared right before that question. They definitely had a profound impact on me, because I'm definitely someone who doesn't tend to think about the impact. I just want to make an impact. So to hear it, I'm receiving that. And I also want to tie that to when you talked about Black girlhood, is we were want to just name we were born with the sauce, but we live in a
Mm,
society that tells us our sauce is wrong. This needs to be changed. So to hear you say, I like I'm right. Yeah, I have that is beautiful, and I hope you hold on to that as well.
mm,
Black women always had it, but we've been
yeah.
taught to not use it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So to your question, like where I'm at, I this job came to me, right? So the job I'm doing right now, the where I'm at specifically, like at Drake, I envisioned this for me when I was like 35, and I got this
Mhm.
job when I was 27.
Period.
So I feel like this is just the beginning, because a lot of my work, I've been in different situations where I also did not believe I had the sauce, right? And
Mm,
was taught to like digest the sauce of white supremacy. And I feel like right around now is where I learned that no, I have a lot of ancestral energy in me that can shake some things, and
mhm,
I can pull on that. And so I feel like I'm just now in my year 31 realizing what I'm capable of, realizing the
mhm.
impact I can have, realizing what I have in me is actually so helpful and useful. I
Yeah.
feel like I've released a lot of things. So I think we are just getting started. And actually, it's like really exciting, because I used to have this fear of success, because I'm like, oh God, who am I going to become? And now I'm like, oh no, I can't wait to see who I'm going to become, God willing, right? I'm able just to keep doing this work. But thankfully, the universe has always been very, very loving toward me the more I lean into my purpose. So
Yeah.
right now, I'm just in
Absolutely.
alignment. I'm not thinking, I used to have like, oh, 5-year goals. I threw that away, because this was my my 10-year goal. But okay,
Listen,
throw it out.
yes,
Keep moving.
absolutely. I absolutely love that, and how it really sounds to me like you are truly living for every day, and you are enjoying and enjoying those moments and enjoying where you are now. I find that all too often we are so worried about the future that we forget about the present.
Yeah.
And we were all told that we have to have a 1, 5, and a 10-year plan.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the closer I get to 40, the more I am realizing, just like what you said, that is a part of the sauce of white supremacy, and I am not prescribing to that.
Yeah. It's
So
tired.
it's such a tired thought process. And to be honest, like, I feel like when you're able to really be in the moment, you can make more connection and find more purpose for what you want to do in the future. So I absolutely love that, Kayla. Thank you so much
This is a
for
pleasure.
just taking the time and talking with me today. Definitely want to have you back, because I want to talk specifically about Drake. I want to talk specifically about you going into business for yourself also with
Yeah.
Question Kayla LLC. So I have so many more questions for you. But before we go, one thing I like to do for all my guests is I want to make sure that I'm rolling out the red carpet. Please tell the people where they can find you, how they can follow you, and how they can also support you in all of the endeavors that you're currently working on.
Yeah, thank you. This has been a wonderful time, right? And we talked about exactly what needed to be said, right? So thank you for having me. I'm honored, and of course would love to come back. So if you want to
Yes.
follow me and stay connected with me, questionkaylallc.com is where my public speaking business is located. What I didn't hit on is I do a lot of suicide prevention work. So I offer free
Mm,
suicide prevention training. So if that's ever something that someone's interested in, I'd be happy to support with that. But I do other stuff, but social media, Question Kayla. Type it into any platform, TikTok. Substack is where I write a little bit more in depth about different topics. And
okay.
TikTok is where I have the short form, more verbal communication, as well as Instagram. And those are the places you can connect with me. But if you see me out, just say hello. If this touched you and you feel connected, that's the stuff that reminds me why I do this in the first place.
Okay. All right, wonderful. And I will be sure to have all of that information written down for everyone in the show notes. Kayla, again, thank you so much for being
Thank
on the
you.
podcast today. And for everyone listening, I'm going to take a short break and then I will be back for reflections on today's episode and a sneak peek into what we have coming up. So stay tuned. So let me ask you this. When was the last time you took a moment just for yourself? Not for work, not for school, not for family, but for you. That's where journaling comes in, and that's exactly why I created my journaling kits. Each kit is designed to make it super easy and honestly really fun to start your journaling journey. You'll get a decorated journal with over 100 prompts to spark your creativity, plus washi tape, stickers, cards, and even a sweet treat to keep you inspired. Journaling is more than just writing. It's self-care, it's reflection, it's dreaming bigger. And with these kits, you don't have to stare at a blank page wondering where to start. I've got you covered with prompts that will help you reflect, plan, and grow. They're just $18, and you can grab yours today on Etsy in the Black Girl Iowa shop. Don't wait to start your journaling journey. Your thoughts, your dreams, your story, they deserve a page. Was that not a fantastic episode? I cannot thank Kayla enough for coming and chatting with me about all of the things and just hearing her journey through mental healthness and really understanding who she is was really eye-opening to me. I will tell you guys something about after that episode in that interview. So I feel like when you talk to a therapist, when you talk to a mental health counselor, I feel like a lot of the times they are kind of already clocking you a little bit. And so after that conversation that I had with Kayla, I'm saying, oh, it's so great to have you on the show. And that was such a good convo. And I can't wait. And I'm getting ready to tell her all of the things that are going to be coming up next, right? So when it's going to be posted, all of the media and all the other stuff that I'll be doing for the show. And what Kayla did was she looked dead at me and she said, Emily, I have a question for you. And I'm like, what is it? And she said, is your podcast a way for you to communicate with your younger self, with 12-year-old Emily? And when I tell y'all, I started crying almost immediately. And it really made me realize in that moment that that's exactly what I'm doing. I used to feel a lot of the time when I was younger that, granted, I had a great family. I went to great schools. I had amazing friends, but there was still this sense of invisibility that I felt whenever I would leave that safe bubble of my home and my community, right? But thinking about my childhood and thinking about how I grew up and where I grew up, it's almost like I blocked out those moments where I felt so isolated and so weird and so different that I didn't really leverage my voice in the same ways that I am now. And by her telling me that, it made me think about 12-year-old Emily. It made me think about all of those times where I felt like what it was that I had to say or what I wanted to do, et cetera, that it didn't matter. And so I love that. And if you don't have a mental health counselor or a therapist that is a friend, get one, okay? Get one. Because I really feel like by her asking me that question, it really is making me think about all of the things that I wanted to say when I was 12 years old and I didn't get to. And how would I say those things now? And how I can use my podcast to say those things and to start those conversations. So that, in addition to all of the things, is one of the biggest things that I took away from my conversation with Kayla. So again, all of Kayla's information will be in the show notes. Shout out to her again for being on the show. And to everyone listening now, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Black Girl Iowa podcast. This and all of my previous episodes can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and on YouTube. And be sure to follow me, okay, on Instagram and TikTok at Black Girl Iowa for updates, behind the scenes content, and even more of my daily shenanigans, all right? So again, as always, keep showing up for yourself, keep telling your story, and